Hey everybody, welcome back to another beautiful chess composition. It's White's turn to play here and eventually win the game. Even though it might not seem so complicated to solve, this puzzle is worth sharing because it really has one of the most beautiful forcing sequences that I've ever seen. So let's get started. As I said, White's turn to play. So even though White is down some material, this position forces checkmate in 7 moves. Let me know if you can spot the first move. Now I'm sure you saw that the bishop controls the c8 to h3 diagonal. So if the enemy king were in check, its only available square would be the g6 to escape to. Once the king is on g6, we can use either one of our pawns for the final blow. But how exactly are we going to achieve that? In order to deliver that check, we're going to have to use our knight. But we're going to have to choose the right path for him to follow because there's literally only one that guarantees us victory. All the others are going to bring the balance back into black's favor. Now, if you had said knight to e4 first, thinking to then move knight to f6, unfortunately, that's not the move we're looking for. Let's say black responds with rook to e1. If we manage to deliver our original plan by checking the king with knight to f6, after king to g6, we don't have this pawn to f5 checkmate anymore, because black could simply take out our knight, thus escaping the checkmate. We saw that knight to e4 didn't work. But what about knight to f5? And afterward, moving the knight over here to g7. Now, sadly, this doesn't work either, because our knight interferes with that bishop. So the king can escape through g4 or over here on f3. So there's only one move left, and it's the correct one, knight to e8, which prepares knight to g7. Black is then forced to move their king to g6 because if they would make a random move instead, let's say pawn takes on h4, this is actually going to be checkmate in 2 moves, either with knight to g7 and then bishop to f5, or pawn to g4 and then bishop to f5. Now, if black is going to try and take the other pawn, the same checkmate still applies with knight to g7 and then bishop to f5. So black moves his king to g6, and now we're really going to start seeing this puzzle's true beauty. Now pause the video if you would like, and let me know in the comments if you're able to see the next 2 brilliant moves from white. Let me give you a little hint. You're going to need to box the enemy king in. One of the beauties of this puzzle is that if you had started with f5, this would end in a draw. Black's rook would take the pawn, and after pawn to h5 check, black would take the pawn with their king. Even if white managed to capture black's rook, the endgame would still be a draw. Pawn to g4 makes room for all eventual checks, like knight to g7, and black would still have a comfortable position. Instead, if you had started with h5 check, now you're winning. It's incredible how 2 seemingly similar moves are instead so different. If black were to capture the pawn with their king, we'd have a checkmate we've already seen. Knight to g7, check. Black's only move is g6, and bishop to f5 again with the finish. So black is not going to play that blunder, and instead he's going to take it with the rook. And now we can play the move pawn to f5. Now I know you're wondering what's so different between starting with h5 or starting with f5. So let me tell you. It's because in the f5 case, after the king takes the pawn and white takes the rook, black has time to play pawn to g4 and save his game. Instead, if we start with h5 after the rook takes, it's white's turn to play and he gets the chance of playing g4. So a tiny change in move sequence could lead to an entirely new outcome. In this position, what would you have played as black? It's kind of a rhetorical question because the right play by black here is to resign. Because no matter what you do, white has an unstoppable checkmate in 3 moves. You can't move this h-rook over here because, once again, bishop to f5 is checkmate. Now, what if you try moving the f-rook on either the file or the rank? Let's say moving it to f3. White is going to respond with bishop to e6. And you're not going to be able to stop the bishop to e7 checkmate. Pawn to f5 is not going to work because the knight covers the f6 square. Maybe you're going to try rook to e5 to prevent bishop to e6. Now can you see why this is going to be a problem for white? It's because he's got this amazing sacrifice with bishop to f5. The rook is then forced to take, and now as white, we don't take either rook. No. Here, as white, we are going to play the deadly move, knight to g7. So simple, so elegant, yet so devastatingly powerful, it creates a mating net impossible to escape from. The h rook is going to move, pawn takes on f5, checkmate. The f rook is going to move, pawn takes on h5, checkmate. What a beautiful puzzle with such a satisfying checkmate. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed our video today. And let me know if there's anything you'd like us to cover. Please write it down in the comments. I'll see you next time.